Can you imagine using that answer in school? Luke, can you explain why your homework wasn't completed to an acceptable standard? The devil made me do it. Right. Okay, well, that answer ain't gonna cut it, mister. Honestly, this is like the fifth time. Oh. Okay, now you've gone into a trance.
The court accepts the existence of God every time a witness swears to tell the truth. I think it's about time they accept the existence of the devil.
You okay there? Jesus. I think I hurt someone.
How's it going, guys? Welcome back to my channel and time for another episode of Luke's Reviews. Today, I'm back. Well, I mean, I was back yesterday, or a couple of days ago, depending on when this video goes out. I put out my every Saw movie ranked, although I did the majority of that video actually about a week or so ago. I just decided to take a week and a bit off. And now I'm back. We've got a brand new Conjuring movie out to talk about, and that is The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It. Set in the year 1981, Arnie Johnson is charged with murder, although in court he pleads not guilty due to demonic possession. This then involves Ed and Lorraine Warren to investigate and uncover the truth, as well as an attempt to prove it in court. Also, as the title of this video indicates, please stay tuned to the end of the video as well after my review, where I'm going to be doing a very bite-sized edition of Ranked, looking at the Conjuring Universe. So, The Devil Made Me Do It is very different to the past two Conjuring films, and for that fact, different to anything in this universe so far. The first significant difference is that for a Conjuring movie, James Wan is not directing. He directed the first two Conjuring movies and then passed on his directing duties to Michael Chaves, who also directed The Curse of La Llorona. Now, you do notice how Wan's fingerprints aren't all over the film. However, it doesn't matter too much because Chaves brings his own style, his own aesthetic that you get completely on board with, and as a filmmaker, I'm now very interested to see what other projects he's going to take on after this. Now, as for something that has always remained constant within this universe, are jump scares, and they are here. They're not scary. They are prolonged periods of silence, followed by an incredibly loud noise, because that's the thing that makes you jump. Sometimes there'll be a bit of a creepy image that follows after it, but more often than not, it's just a loud noise designed to make you jump. It's not scary. I've been on record about this for what seems like a millennia now. But yeah, they're there. Eh. That being said, though, The Devil Made Me Do It isn't actually too focused on delivering scares. Don't get me wrong, they're literally from the opening in what's a very cool exorcism sequence. But as the film progresses, I really did not expect it to be as plot driven as it was. This has a lot of story to it, and if you are after endless jump scares, I don't know how you're really gonna find this. For me, I dug that we could actually take the time to sit down and explore this investigation. As I've said, it plays out remarkably different to the Conjuring films of the past. The whole demon haunting the family type thing happens in the first act. From that point on, it's much more of an investigative horror, a detective story almost, of the Warrens investigating the conspiracy of Arnie Johnson's possession. I will say though, if you've liked the Conjuring films of the past and how they're based on a true story, this one still is, but my god, does it take that believability and stretch it to the thinnest line imaginable. The film starts dealing with satanic cults and rituals, and because it leans into it so heavily, it's gonna depend on how much you believe that Satanists are privy to these supernatural powers. For me, I'd say like 80 to 85% of the film, possibly even more, is completely fictional. And I think if you treat it as such, you'll probably get more out of it. And I think a good reason as to why it manages to keep afloat without sinking into its own ridiculousness is because of the performances from Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga as Ed and Lorraine Warren. They've always been so brilliant in these roles, honouring the late investigators dearly, and no matter how far that line of believability stretches, the one thing you always believe is the love between these two people who were real. And the reason why is because of Wilson and Farmiga. So I won't sit here and say that The Devil Made Me Do It is a must-see for horror fans, but I would say that it's one of the better films within the universe, and it won't waste your time should you choose to watch it. Scares are moved aside for a compelling investigation anchored by the ever-reliable Wilson and Farmiga, and it was nice to see them just switch it up a bit. So overall, I'm going to give The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It a 6.5 out of 10. And now it is time to rank all 8 of the movies in the Conjuring universe, and we start things off with the bottom of my list, and that is Annabelle. So Annabelle was made as a spin-off to the first Conjuring movie because there was a reaction to that creepy looking doll. The film was directed by longtime cinematographer to James Wan, John R. Leonetti, who also directed Mortal Kombat Annihilation. Honestly, aside from a half-decent home invasion to open, this was an abysmal excuse of a horror, with every jump scare telegraphed, characters making the most idiotic decisions to advance the plot, and poor performances from the whole cast. Next, in at number 7 is The Nun. We saw the freaky Valak pop up in The Conjuring 2 with the promise of yet again another spin-off, and despite a neat character design and an admirable attempt to create an atmosphere, The Nun totally flopped. It has a sorry excuse of a plot, if it could even be called that, with ineffective scare after ineffective scare. The film is so damn repetitive that it's basically just 90 minutes of characters walking around candlelit corridors until something jumps out at them. And it's about as interesting as that sounds. In at number 6 is Annabelle Comes Home. Back to Annabelle now for her third solo film. This time round it's set in the Warrens' house as Annabelle decides to have a party with all of the other demonic possessions inside their library. I think I'd like this film a lot more if it actually felt like a film rather than a rip-off of one of those horror mazes you find at theme parks. I mean, you just go from room to room, something jumps out at you, then you go into the next room. There's no plot, no characters worth exploring. Everyone that does populate the film makes the dumbest decisions possible, all in order to lazily try to set up a couple more films with some new monsters. Number 5 on my list goes to The Curse of La Llorona. Now this basically just acted as Michael Chaves' audition to get the Conjuring 3 gig. And whilst I don't think it's a badly directed film, it's terribly written. The screenwriters had a great concept of the traditional Mexican folklore surrounding La Llorona, a demon who comes and takes children away to be drowned. And rather than fully capitalize on that premise, the studio chose to play it unbelievably safe and wound up with a generic, formulaic horror that follows a worn mold, making it instantly forgettable to those who do see it. Number 4 goes to The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It. I've literally just spoken about my thoughts on that film, so I won't bother wasting your time recapping any of that. The bronze medal is given to The Conjuring 2. I really enjoy the follow-up to The Conjuring. This time round, we follow the Warrens across the pond to Camden to investigate the infamous Enfield haunting. Now, this case I'm actually somewhat familiar with, and what I will say is that if you want a far more accurate account of what happened to the family, then I would seek out the show The Enfield Haunting with Timothy Spall. It's a far more insightful account. However, James Wan, as always, does a great job delivering his style of immersive horror, but also still putting heart and emotion at the core, which really worked here. It also has probably my most underrated shot in any horror film, as Janet morphs into Bill and back again in one unbroken take. Securing second place is Annabelle Creation. This was far better than it had any right to be after the diabolical first Annabelle. But with David F. Sandberg steering the ship, he made sure we finally got a really entertaining Annabelle movie directed by someone who loved horror and wanted to have fun with the genre. There's plenty of very effectively orchestrated scares here, jump scares too, but they're used appropriately. The central dynamic of Janice and Linda is sweet and works well to keep the film grounded. I also found myself really involved in the tension when I saw it for the first time. Yes, I was one of those annoying people quietly screaming at the screen for the character to do this or that. It's just a very entertaining horror film. And of course, number 1, The Conjuring. James Wan took horror by the balls and gave us a good old-fashioned haunted house story, the likes of which we hadn't seen since the original Poltergeist. The introduction to the Warrens was great, and we actually explored them as characters rather than bland one-dimensional exorcists like we get in hundreds of other horrors. And you give a shit about the family too. Lily Taylor gives a great performance, as do the rest of the kids, and it's scary. There is well-built tension, usually with a satisfying climax. I mean, the film was rated R, or 15 in the UK, just because it was scary. I can pop this on whenever and get wrapped up in it. So there we are, those were my thoughts on The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It, and my entire ranking of the Conjuring universe so far. Let me know, what is your favourite movie in the Conjuring universe? Have you had a chance to see The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It yet? What did you think? Let me know in the comments below. But as always, thank you ever so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Hello, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you have, make sure to click that like button, and if you aren't already, click that subscribe button too.